Hi guys there, thank you for joining. Today I'm going to be talking to you about brand guidelines. It's the brand themed week. I imagine you're here because you've been to one of my workshops, you've seen other YouTube videos or all of those podcasts that I always rave on about. Brand guidelines are really, really important. Some people don't really get them or they don't know how to be consistent with them. So this will hopefully help you in understanding some of those bits. In a nutshell, there are businesses out there that use these all the time. We can straight away look at Coke, Virgin, Adidas. I mean, there's other ones that we can think of, like British Airways, that Airbnb, eBay, all have brands and they have logos, but they also probably have ways in which they might advertise and create graphics that are similar to that. Now, these are really cool things, but how do you get your head around what might be needed in your brand guidelines? Well, it's kind of easy. So what we need to do is we need to decide first and foremost color. We need a color palette. So we need to pick one color that's your main primary color. Now, I do know in some organizations logos are made up of 3 colors perhaps. I would limit that at 3, but it doesn't mean you have to. It'd be nice if you did kind of have a limit on it. But working with what you've got, just understanding that that's your color set. Sometimes if you've got a color, then it's nice to have 3 colors. But some people also like to go a step further and have a variation. So they have a palette of colors. So they would have an agreed set of packages. And typically you tend to see this among services where you've got a business brand that's got a particular color in its logo, in its organization. That's the prime color. And then it'll have other packages and services that are less core or just others, and they each have a color scheme. And then what you would do is that color scheme is part of your color palette, and you wouldn't move outside of that. The reason why the color palette might work and why people favor towards it is because they might want to promote themselves and they've got like an orange or whatever color box you've got around your images, or you've got a bit of writing, or you've got your little widget logo thing, and that works great. If contextually each bit you're talking about is different packages, then having your logo next to a different color might help, and that it feels part of the same package as well. So it helps people direct them and make them feel safe and secure as being part of that journey that you want them to go on when you want them to buy from you. Before we move away from color, we probably need to address the elephant in the room about what kind of color you've got. So there are different types of color. There are Pantone, there's RGB, and there's CMYK. So CMYK is quite straightforward and simple. It's color schemes that are made for print, and that's because of the way the printer is set up on CMYK. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and K seems to be the black. And they're just the way the colors are made up. Now RGB is the same, but it's just a different system because that's how computers process the colors. They do it through red, green, and blue. That's how they make the color systems up. So the third type, hexadecimal, is basically the way the web interprets and understands color. And it needs to not do that in the same blending the other two do, but it's more a case of understanding, okay, we've got code that identifies as this color, and then it displays it, because code is just black and white. So you can see hexadecimals placed as either 6 characters or 3, but it always starts with a hashtag. We have Pantones. Pantones are, again, a completely separate unit, but already, as you imagine, going from web to this color to that color, I just want one color and that to be the color across everything. How do I do that? Well, in terms of print and all these other elements, Pantone is there to be the governor of everything. That kind of says, this is the color and this is the name and this is the style. It's got its own style and its naming system, but it tries to go, this is what it is. And it's just a way of identifying that color as the same across the board. Now, the next thing to talk about is fonts. And there are millions of different fonts, but in a brand guideline, you do need to think of 1 or 2 types of fonts. On a website, you don't really go above 2 is what I would say. I know some people push and they go 3, but really we don't go above 2 because you've got your logo that has the font on it. Then we've got other fonts like headers, and we don't want to mix that up with other stuff. Body text is normally digitally, Arial, Helvetica. It's anything that's sans serif without the cliffs. And that's kind of it really. So that's fonts in a nutshell. Digitally don't really use serif fonts. They use sans serifs, which is again without the cliffs. But if you do, then hopefully that's because of a brand and an intellectual choice that you've made. In web style, they have font families, so it might be worth you looking through Google fonts, because those are the ones that will load up on the pages super fast. Because they're already pre-built and you don't need to make people load them up. And they're also widely available. So have a look at those if those help you at all. Other than that, just having color schemes and understanding what's in your logo is really good. So this is where we get advanced. A lot of logos, where it works for them is the shape of the logo and whatever value that has. Having that integrated into an element of what you do is really, really interesting. When logos have particular shapes like squares or squircles, or they have circles, or they have rectangles, circles. But whenever they have any kind of shapes, doesn't really matter what they are. If your logo has them shapes, then you kind of utilize them within your guidelines, because then your organization or you would then go off and use them in certain ways. But it's important to use them and try and use them within those guideline ways. So, question, which would be, when do you adopt one if you're a new company? Don't worry about it, just kind of do it and just go along with it and change it a little bit. Mostly try and stay the same. And if you feel like something changes, then change it and make it a consistent, active choice and use one system, and don't keep chopping and changing, and definitely don't do a completely random opposite thing. Having consistency is the key in everything that we talk about, and it is with the audience in order for them to identify with you and connect, and for them to keep coming back. So that's another branding talk from me. If you guys found that interesting, let me know. If you've thought of another question that's not been covered by me here or on my workshop or just here, then let me know. Thank you for listening and joining in. Until next time, guys, take care. See you soon.